What's up, beautiful people, to another episode of Conversations with Christian. It's me, Ricky Jones Jr. We also have
O'Neal Delva in the building. Or in the virtual building, I guess you could say, right?
virtual just as well as they are, right? We all virtual
Yeah.
today. We're trying something different. We're trying something new. Just having fun with certain things, right? Maybe some things to come. We'll see how it flows, how it goes. But nonetheless, we wanted to give you all this great content nonetheless. Now, O'Neal's been thinking, and he was like, hey, let's come up with a topic that is going to be very, very, very informational for you all, to you all, and hopefully we say something that you can see yourself in and, can guide yourself through your life, because we've been through some things that we can now speak to that maybe you two will be able to do for somebody else one day. But O'Neal, man, let them know what the topic is today, man.
So for today, the topic is now, in life, there are times when God is speaking directly to us, right? He'll tell us something sweet, something good, something that we've been waiting to and excited to hear. Like, ooh, that's God right there speaking to us. Yes, Lord, I hear you. I was anticipating this good word, whatever it might be. But there are times when God will speak to you and the thing that he's saying is a little tough, right? A little tough, where you're like, ooh, that can't be God, right? But no, it is God speaking to you. So he's delivering something to you to where it's, tough, something that maybe you've never thought of before, or something that maybe you were trying to avoid, or maybe he's asking you to pack things up and move your family across the world to the other side of the world. That might be, kind of tough for you, maybe tough for your family and friends, but hey, hearing and doing the things that God is telling you to do.
True. I love that. Now, I see what you did there. Now, you're talking about something that is going on in my life, right?
Exactly.
But I want to say it this way, right? That's a thing that we'll talk about another day, right? But because I say it because I think it's always beneficial to talk to people from your place of experience and out of the overflow of what did take place, as opposed to like talking to people like while you're in the midst of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a close proximity with somebody, then okay, we can talk to each other as things are taking place. But as far as like trying to help people, like, go ahead.
I mean, it could go either way, right? Because sometimes maybe you want to share with people as you're kind of going through the experience, so they can celebrate with you, right? They can encourage you. They can, they feel like they are a part of the journey, given a chance to see it from conception to from inception to conception, or whatever the saying is, right?
Oh, I like what you did there.
Yeah.
I will say this, there's a family channel for that, right? So if you want to be a part of the Jones move, you can definitely take part in the family channel. I got two things though. Two major moves of what like God shared with me to do.
That was tough.
And I was like, oh snap, right? And one of them has to do with the move and the other one doesn't, right? So God talks to me in moves, but you're gonna have to share some too, right? So I'm gonna share one, then you share one. We're like boom, 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 boom. And like jump in if like any parts just don't click, right? But nonetheless, here we are. I'm in college, right? I was in college. I was at Valdosta State University, and I'm out there like living reckless. When I mean reckless, I'm being a hoe at the end of the day. There's no other way of like beating around the bush. That's what I was doing. But I was doing it away. Like I wasn't doing it when I was at home. When I was at home, I was living right, living good. Why? Because my dad was a pastor and all that good stuff. So I had to live right in front of my people. You know what I'm saying? I can't make them look bad. So I knew how to flip the switch and all that good stuff when I was away. I could play. But it got to a point in my life, I was like, man, God, like, this is not it. Like, I need to get out of here. Like, what could I do? What can I do to like get my life right? I knew Christ. I was a believer at the age of 7. But even I started trying to go to church while I was there. And I was just trying to figure stuff out. Like, God, what do I do? In the midst of that, my neighbor across the hallway came across the room and said, hey, I'm about to look at this school. We were sophomores maybe at the time. Yeah, like sophomores at the time. And she was already planning what she wanted to do for law school and things like that, which she didn't even do any of that.
Okay,
But
that's what I was thinking. Did she do? Okay.
she didn't
Go
do
ahead.
it. But it was for me. That was for me. God
Hey.
sent her for me. She came across and was like, I'm looking at this school called LSU. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you know, I've seen it on TV, football players, all of that, but like I never thought about going to school there.
Yeah.
But as I was like looking it up, God was like, no, this is where you should go. Okay.
All right.
So I applied. I applied right there. I don't know if I think I did get accepted before we went, but I told my parents about it. They were like, okay, which was cool because they were paying for my school. So I went from being an in-state student to an out-of-state
Out-of-state. Oh man, out-of-state tuition don't play though. Like
don't play.
yeah,
Don't play
yeah,
the radio.
You're paying three
And
times as much as for someone who's sitting right next to you in state, barely paying attention, but you're paying 3 times as much. Yeah, but go ahead though.
just like that. Same role. But I told my parents, it was like, okay, cool, let's go check it out. We understand, you know, you want to do better in life, yada, 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 all that good stuff. Great conversation because I have great parents. And so on the way to LSU for that initial visit, I'll never forget, the song came on I'll Be There, the Jackson 5. My dad loved Jackson 5s.
How does it go?
I'm not gonna sing it. You're the singer. But you can hit the high note. But anyway, it all with it all. We're driving, we're riding. I'm riding, my dad's driving. The song was playing. My mom's behind me in the back seat. And I just start crying. I just cry, right? And my mom was like, it's okay, baby, it's okay. She thought I was having an emotional experience because I was leaving somebody in my past, right? I'm like, no, mama, that's not what's taking place right now.
Okay.
God shared with me that this move is going to be a springboard to future things in life. And I'm just crying because I'm like, this is everything that I wanted, right? And it's even before we made it there for the visit. And so in it all, with it all, we arrived there. I saw everything that I wanted to see, felt very comfortable, met great people. I was connected with a great advisor and counselor and things like that. So I'm like, okay, this is it. Make it there, boom shakalaka. My life just soared from there. But I'm saying all that to say, like, what was it that God said? Well, I said I wanted change. God said LSU was the change. I'm at BSU, but God's like, no. LSU is where the change is going to occur that you're asking me for. And I had to have that stick to itness because I heard it in the fall, applied, transferred in the spring. So I'm like, boom, boom, boom. Like your boy don't play. When I hear from God, I act. And so like that was a thing where I heard what God said, but then I had to act on what God said to get the results that God said. So that was a time for me. But I'm curious to you, my brother, what was a time for you that God told you to do a thing that you had to do?
Well, I mean, I would say, before I jump into mine, which, wasn't, I'll say not as deep, but of course it's my story, connected to me and some of the things. But as you were talking though, when you said the crying, I literally was thinking, not necessarily leaving someone in your past, but I thought you were saying that you were crying because the song, like, thinking like you're leaving your parents, right? Or this big change and that, but knowing, even though that you are apart from them, that they will always be there. But,
Gotcha.
but
there's that too.
Awesome. Yeah,
I mean,
but that's awesome. I mean, God showing
I'll cry to that too. I'll cry to that too.
Yeah. So, letting you know that this amazing, this move is going to be the thing that, kind of the springboard to propel you forward to the things that, he has for you. I'll say for me, one was kind of minor, but one major back in 2017, as far as God saying a thing and it being tough, but then you needing to listen and follow and just being obedient, right? In 2017, my mom, she was sick, and she's been sick for a very long time. So my mom is diabetic. Back in, I want to say 1999, when I was a junior in high school, that's when she started to experience, being really sick, or, various symptoms as it relates to being diabetic and so on. Mm-hmm. And that's when we learned in 1999 that she was diabetic, and then that there are some changes that were necessary for her lifestyle in order for her to, live longer, live the way that, she comfortably in a sense where, it's not anything having to do insulin shots and all that other stuff. I know there's type 1, type 2. I believe she was type 1. So with that said, so for years, she's known this, and for years she's known to take treatment and her pills as she needs to, monitor her blood, sugar levels, and so on and so forth. And time has gone by where, again, we know that she's on it and so on and so forth. Well, with her, she had retired the job that she had, been working in for however long, and receiving treatment or receiving medical coverage through that job, right? So when she stopped working, well, her medical coverage through that job ended. But at the same time, she was eligible for like Medicare and so on and so forth. But that's a whole nother story. But she was ignoring the letters that were coming in from Medicare, and letting her know, hey, you have insurance. So in her mind, she didn't have insurance. So what she ended up doing is she stopped taking her medicine. But she didn't say anything at all to any of us about her not taking her medicine. So she had actually gone like 7 months. And my mom, I talked to her every day, almost like at least every other day. And we talk, and she's normal, sounds fine. Hey, everything's okay. Yeah, everything's fine, this and that. Well, one day I was talking with her, or was it my aunt? My aunt called us basically and said, hey, you need to talk to your mom because she needs to get to the hospital now. Because if she doesn't get to the hospital now, basically she's not going to make it.
Oh, wow.
Like, what's happening? Called her up, spoke with her, and my mom, who's always been nice and, excited or vibrant, like her voice, she's very, very much vocal and involved in, the things that we're kind of saying. She sounded very weak and, could barely get the words out as we were talking. Wow. Long story short with that, we finally convinced her to go to the hospital. And at the hospital, she looked frail and was like on the verge of kind of like no longer being with us.
Wow.
And, at that moment, God had reminded me, like, just trust me, right? Trust me. Now, you'd think like, okay, well, of course, it's good for, you have to trust God. But at times, I'll say, the way I'm thinking, sometimes it's easier to it's easy to say something, right? Like, oh, just trust God. Like, he'll take care of everything. But when you're in the midst of the storm, like when you're going through that thing, it can kind of feel like a little tough, right? Like, oh God, I'm trusting you. I'm trusting that everything's going to be okay with my mom. But at the same time, what I'm seeing is kind of tough, to bear, or tough to, to take in. But anyway, I think it's what 1 Corinthians 10:13, where it reminds us that God will not let us endure any or go through anything more than we can endure, right?
So kind of like just more than we can bear.
And more than we can bear, exactly. So just that reminder, like, hey, the things, hey, what's happening right now, it seems tough, but just trust me and know in the end, everything will be okay. So at that moment, seeing my mom, the person I've always looked up to, the one who's always been like, so full of life, being almost super weak, and you know what I mean? Like just looking at her, and what I saw at the time didn't reflect what God was telling me, but of course, leaning on, continuing to stay focused on, and knowing that in the end, everything will be all right. And that, I would say, was one of the toughest things that I had to do, just, trusting God and knowing that everything will be okay at that moment. And it all worked out, of course, the way, he kind of showed me. So,
no, that's good. That's good. I'm glad your mom is still getting
it.
That's the other side of the story, right?
Yeah, that is. Yeah. I mean, now we can look back at things, and kind of and celebrate, and just, you can look back and like, remember that time when this and that, with any and every situation, right? You can always look back, but at the time when you're going through it, it's very tough for you to see. And but just stay firm, planning God, and knowing that, hey, at the time, the things that's happening, it's all taken care of. Everything will be okay by the stripes of Jesus. She's healed and everything else. And here we are 5 years later, everything's, back to the way it was before.
Look at you knowing the word. Look at you. Look at you. Going 2 scriptures. Boy, you're showing out today. What is it, the shirt? What is going on?
It's must be the shirt.
So cool. So my second thing was around Crystal and I getting married, right? Because long story short, right, is that we met each other, we got engaged, and we were married all in 9 months, right? So that's a fast time for anybody. But more than anything, it was like a fast time for my family for various reasons, right? And things were heated in certain cases when we were within the engagement period and right before the marriage and all those different things. It was just a lot taking place, right? Some things on my part, and the list goes on. However, I'm saying all that to say, like, I remember what God said. God said Crystal and I was to get married, right? And so I held on to the promise. And I think that's the key part about when you go through tough things after you act on what God says, right? Is that you have to hold on to the promise. Because if I can quote the Bible as you did, the word lets us know that when the word is said, that immediately Satan comes, right? To take up or to pick up the word that was said. And so that was in the illustration where it talked about the various grounds, you know, the thorny ground, the rocky ground, the fertile ground, all those different grounds. That parable, right? Since we're going to go biblical in this conversation. But it all, whoa, watch out, sir. But it all, don't play with the word. But with it, I'm reminded that when you hear something from God, you hold on to that promise from God, because like I said, immediately stuff is going to happen. We can even look at Peter, right? Peter called out to Jesus saying, if it is you, be it so that I can come to you, right? And then Jesus said, come. Peter started walking on water. And it was until Peter started looking at the winds, the raging winds, the boisterous winds around him. And then he started to sink. What am I saying all to say? You have to remain focused on who gave you the promise, who gave you the word. Even if you can't see Jesus as Peter did, you can hold on to what was said, which is what God has shared with me. And so things were getting rough. I'm talking like I was making moves. I had stayed with a friend of ours and all those different things like that. And because I was still in school, and we was working through some things. But I just had to hold on to what God said. And it was all the way up to the wedding day that different things were taking place. But I had a place of peace. Truth be told, like in the midst of rages and storms and things like that, I was at peace because I held on to what God said. And I will only say what God said. I wouldn't add Ricky on it. I wouldn't add my emotions. I wouldn't add my thoughts. I wouldn't add any feelings. I only said what God said, and allowed me to get the outcome that God said, which is Crystal and I being married. And I mean, we've been married now 8 years, right?
I'm about to say, you need to get that right. You need to get, you got to get the date, the time, everything right, bro.
Talk about your life. Don't talk about mine. And so we've been married 8 years now, which has gone so fast, right? See, that's exactly. Amazing. Right. You were at the wedding. So, I mean, does it feel like 8 years?
It doesn't. It doesn't, not at all.
Bro, 8 years, 2 years from a decade.
Yeah, that's amazing.
In it all, with it all, what can I pull out? What would I share with you all? Being on the back end of it is all the things that I've shared. When God says something to you and you act on that thing, know that trials and tribulations will come, as the word says. But then the Bible says, again, be of good cheer because I have overcome the world. That's the words of Jesus. And so you don't have to worry when those things come. Don't, because you already know the victory is on the other end of you remaining obedient to what God said. So that's my little piece. O'Neal gave 2 scriptures. I gave 3 references. So
snap. That's what we're doing.
See.
All right.
We'll see who's in the word.
No, that's really good, actually. Something that you said a moment ago about, holding on to the promise, right? And just remembering, who said it and, and what was said. Because I think at times, too, we, as we're going through whatever, and God is speaking to us, right? Or maybe the situation is tough, or maybe what God said is tough, right? But what we end up doing is we insert ourselves to where we want to remix it a little bit, right? Remix. We want to change things up a little bit, right?
Correct.
At the same time, God is like, that's not what I said, and that's not how I said it, and that's not the promise that I gave, right? So again, in the sense of if you're going through a tough situation and being mindful of and holding on to the promises of God and what was said to you, don't insert yourself, don't try to change it and end up going down the path where that's not what God originally intended. Or even if God said something that's tough, right? It's good for us to stay in the word and look at it and look at what is being said, where maybe at times we might think it is tough, right? Based on whatever it is that God has spoke to you. But as you're going through, and maybe overall it's something that's major, that's going to be a big change for you, right? As it relates to maybe a move and whatever else, leaving one place to go to another. But then when you start to break it down, and as you're going through, you might realize, like, you know what, this isn't as tough as I had originally made it out to be, right?
Yeah.
Because God knows, again, he's not going to have us go through something that's going to be very, too much for us to handle.
Correct.
But maybe overall, it's a big, request or a big, major undertaking, so to speak. But then, yeah, you break it down like little by little, and next thing you know, you reach a point where you've been, like you said, 8 years married or whatever it might be. Then it's like, oh, all this kind of like just feels like overnight.
Easy. Right.
But
no,
yeah,
that's true. That's true.
But I'll say for me, like the second, I mean, of course, in life, there are a lot of things, that we go through and that seems kind of tough and, tough ask, kind of earlier where I shared about my mom, trusting God as she's going through. And even as a parent, right? Having my girls and my son in different stages in life where it's like, you see kind of something crazy and, you're thinking, God, what am I going to do with this? And he's like, you know what, just, continue to trust him and so on.
Yeah.
I'll say probably the second memory or the second thing that I thought about was, it wasn't, again, something super crazy or deep or anything, but like learning how to let go, right? Learn how to let go of things. Sometimes we can hold on to things longer than we need to.
Yeah.
It'd be physical things, relationships, whatever else. But one of the things that God mentioned to us many years ago as it relates to giving someone a car, right? Or giving it to them at a very low discounted price or whatever, or we kind of wanted to give it to them, but they said, kind of give something towards it. Well, the car itself, when I first met my wife many years ago, this was like the first vehicle that we kind of shared together, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of memories and a lot of things to me, right? Where it meant a lot to me, like that vehicle itself. I remember
a lot of memories, huh?
A lot of memories. Well, not those memories. Oh, Ricky. Oh, man. Family type memories. Yeah, family type memories. Any of those memories? I'm trying to think.
No.
But family type memories. No, because I'm trying to think. So when I first met Jessica, she had a car, but the car kept on breaking down. And we made the decision at the time. I had a motorcycle, so I sold my motorcycle, which was kind of reckless when I think back, some of the things that I did back, young love,
That's it.
Young love. So it's like we were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. So what I did, I know. So I sold my motorcycle to buy a car with her, right? So that was like the first thing that she and I owned together, right? That had both her name and my name connected. And then, the girls like named the car. So it was like, it became a member of the family, so to speak.
Gotcha.
And we had it in my son when he was born, like, and so on. Like, the car had been with us for many, many years. But then God had mentioned or spoken to us and said, hey, I want you to bless someone with that vehicle. We're like, that vehicle? Nah, maybe that's not the vehicle that you meant. I mean, it wasn't anything like major or, fancy.
Right,
like,
but still it's family.
But we had that car for a very long time that, where we formed and added memories, and so on.
Yeah.
And then, but he spoke to us and said, hey, I want you to bless someone with that car. Because, taking you to a new level, new things to come. So go ahead and provide someone with that so that, as a blessing to them. And at the time, there was a young lady in our life who, she was getting ready to go to college and she really needed the car or a car. So, God spoke to us and said, her, go ahead and give it to her. And it was a blessing to her. She was super excited. And, we were just going to give it to her. It was like, no, I want to give you something. It's like, no, don't worry about it. But then in the end, like, instead of trying to say, okay, well, give me $5,000 or something for the car, we're like, you don't have to. But then she gave us like $500 for it. And we're like, in the end, I think we ended up kind of re-giving that back to her as a gift for, best wishes and everything as you transition, go to college and so on. But, just something like, where we wanted to hold on to it longer than we needed to. But then God said, okay, it's time so that, bigger, better things will come your way. And
Yeah.
I can definitely say, bigger and better things have come our way as it relates to that, but
Right.
but I mean, that was, as I
But
said,
no,
not
I
super
love that.
example, but yeah,
But I love it though, bro, because I think it speaks to oftentimes we see like different cliches or like, I'm even thinking of the meme where there's a meme of Jesus kneeling down with a little girl. And it's like she's holding on to this stuffed animal, but Jesus has like a bigger one behind him. It's like,
Oh,
give
yeah,
me
yeah,
this and I'm gonna give you that. But she's like, but
bro,
no,
yeah,
I
that's
don't
good,
like
yeah.
the stuffed animal. But like there's that example. But then I'm even thinking of like growing up, all the different things that I've heard. Like there was a song we used to sing all the time during offering time where it was like, you can't beat God's giving, no matter how hard you try. The more you give, the more he gives to you. Just keep on giving because it's really true. And so it's like, man, like I'm always happy when I get the opportunity to give, right? Because not just with the thought that I'm going to give, knowing that God's going to give back to me, but no, I get to be a blessing. Why? Because I've received so many blessings.
That is true.
And so even in your case where you sold a car, right?
Yeah.
Whereas then you could have got another car in return or other ways of getting, your seed coming back. It doesn't have to be a 1-for-1. It could be another one as for that one. And so it's like, man, it's good to be on the other end of doing what God says, right? And I think that's the key part we've even talked about, from healing, from moving, from sowing, from marrying, right? It's just being obedient to what God said and allowing what he said to be the determining factor for one, but then also the fuel to keep you going when things don't look like what you want them to look like, whether it's your mom looking frail or what about this car? Like, hold on, wait a minute. This is Boo Boo Tutu. Like we've been doing this for years.
This is my baby,
Come on, what are you doing?
A little stain right here. I remember when it first, got put on there, whatever. But yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, just being mindful of blessing to be a blessing to go ahead and which if we hold on to whatever too long to where we are potentially hindering additional blessings or things to come to us. But then when you make room, right, that's when everything flows and works as it should. No, I like that. That was really good. Yeah.
And even to your point, I love where you're going, right? I'm going to take it a little further because even as you're saying the hold on part, if you hold on to something beyond when God says to let it go, you're ultimately turning it into your idol. Right. And that's not really what you want to do because you're ultimately saying this thing, whatever it is more important to me than what God says it should be important. Right. And so if in the case it's a car, right, holding on to this car is saying, God, I can hear what you're saying. However, I love this car more than I love who you are to me and your word is to me. Right. And that's not a place that none of us wants to be in. Right. And so even to the point of hearing what God is saying and acting on it is a sense of and a reminder of a place of being humility or being in a place of humility, in a posture of humility, saying, okay, God, whatever you say has precedence over whatever it is I'm going through. So if it's a move, okay, God, I'll make the move. I won't let where I currently am to say no. I'm not going to make the move be an idol that separates me from God, right? Because in your case, it's the car. You would be driving that car and I mean, all kind of things could happen, right? But it could be the fact that you're driving this car and you're frustrated if somebody leave crumbs in the car, like, I'm doing this in my car, not this car. I love this car, right? Or it could be all kind of stuff. But ultimately, you turn it into an idol. So all that to say, when God says we should move, no matter how rough or how tough, because as you've heard with the 4 stories that we shared, there is victory and a testimony of victory on the other side. Just continue through no matter what it looks like. And you'll be happy just as we are.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, and, looking back and even I'm thinking about some of the things to come as it relates to my family and the big thing related to your family and so on, and just kind of looking towards the opportunity to just rejoice, right? Rejoice in just think about the things that could potentially come, the doors that will open, the connections that will be made based on our obedience and listening to God, and not staying stagnant and moving from one spot to the next. And as far as even with the car or a move, maybe your time, the season that he had that you were in, or whatever it is that God wanted you to do in the location where you were, you've come to an end as it relates to that, right? So then if we listen and we transition and move, hear and do the things that God is telling us to do, who knows, the different, who we can reach, the lives that we can change, those we can help to lead to Christ and help to continue, ultimately to expand his kingdom, right? Go out and preach the word and, share our testimony to help to grow and expand the things that, God has destined, not just for us, but for those around us. So so it's pretty awesome, hear,
I love that,
and do,
hear and do
on it.
Now you gave me another thought, right? I'm gonna shut up after this thought. The thought is the fact that oh my gosh, I think I lost it. Well, God, I guess you're telling me to shut up now.
Nah, share it, bro. Share it.
All right, hold on. It was talking about doing that, boom, boom, boom.
Hearing, doing,
I lost it.
How we can end up blessing others if we transition and move to, right? Did it come back to you?
It's not coming back.
It'll come back to you in a little
while. It was good. Maybe it was for me. Maybe got like
maybe it was for me. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
It's for me.
It'll
so I'm
come
gonna
back
be obedient, right?
You can mention.
I remember it now. I remember it now. So here it is with the fact that most often people think of like acts of obedience as these large leaps of faith moves, where acts of obedience are simple day by day choices of saying yes, right? You say hear and do. That's an act of obedience. Oftentimes we hear, but we don't do anything with what we heard. But when we hear and do, that's an act of obedience that will then grow to this monumental leap of, wow, look at me now. But we take steps of obedience daily, chipping off before we get to that beautiful masterpiece that we ultimately like talking about and hearing about, but not knowing that the sculpture had to do chip by chip by chip by chip, hour by hour. In our case, obedience by obedience, lesson by lesson, experience by experience, to get this beautiful end product that people look at and marvel. Whereas the sculpture, like, man, like I already knew that was going to take place. Right. It was already in my mind. Just like when we act in acts of obedience, we already know what we're gonna get, even though the journey to it isn't as smooth or the way it may look like it should be. We already knew what God said. We knew what was gonna take place, right? But it's those moments.
Don't give up in the process. I like it.
Don't give up. So, with all great people, we thank you all and appreciate you all for rocking us with us today as we are trying something new. Let us know in the comment section below what you think about the new forum, or the current, I won't say the current situation set up. And we'll try to find ways to get y'all on. Maybe we can do some lives like this, because
that'd be pretty cool.
Right. And so
cool.
I like that. Jumping off and get some Q&A popping off and all those things. So with it all, this gives us an opportunity to further reach people, not just in this home, because you can see the set right here, boom, 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 but we can reach people all around the world. Right. And so with it all, let me know down below what you think. Okay. So O'Neil, you got any closing words, any thoughts?
No, just nothing in addition to all the things that we covered today. No, it's good. I love it. I like the format, and I'm excited about our ability to test this virtual format. Let me say it like that. Just looking forward to connecting with others a little bit more.
Boom. So with it all and all, we'll see you on the next one, which is on Thursday. Until then, y'all, love you. Peace.